So friends, those of you who are trying to wedge up clay and you're having a heck of a time in your classroom or in the studio, maybe you don't have a plaster wedging table or a wooden wedging table and you're having a hard time, what can you do? So what I'm doing right now is I just recycled a 25-pound cube that was dry clay. I recycled it and it's a little bit gooey, it's a little bit sticky and inconsistent. So what I need to do is wedge it a good bit. When you're in the classroom, that can be difficult. So what I found in my room, just an old drawing board. We still use some of them, but we don't use the whole giant stack. So I'm going to take one of them and I'm just going to make it my new clay board. It is wide enough that when I stand against it, I can hold it in place against the back of the counter. And so I'm going to take my clay. I am holding it with my left hand and my right hand, pushing down and forward. One that looks like this, okay? And it just starts twisting around on you. If you've kneaded dough, it's very similar. So I'm just pushing, rolling, pushing, rolling. I'm gonna go in slow motion for you. Now, that could be the pace that you do it so that you have control. I have been wedging clay for a very long time and just kind of go at it. Now I'm leaning against that board. If I don't lean against the board, it's gonna move on me and be a pain in the butt. So if your board's too small, it's not gonna work nicely for you. So again, that's why I chose this. It's longer than the counter, a little longer, and I can lean against it and I can just wedge. Now it's slightly absorbent. I'm not getting flakes of anything in it, no pieces of wood, and so that makes it safe to wedge on as well. And as I wedge, I'm just waiting to feel some consistency. You can think about doing 10 good wedge pushes per pound, just as a general rule. If it's new fresh clay that you didn't have to recycle, you don't really have to wedge that much at all. If you cut it, you know you didn't get a bunch of air bubbles and you just wedge it a little bit. But if it is freshly recycled, you definitely need to wedge a lot. So we're trying to work all the air bubbles out of the clay and get the clay to a consistent state that I can work with it. Now, depending if I'm wheel throwing or if I'm just hand building, I can make some decisions from this point. If I was going to wheel throw this, I would kind of slap it in my hands to get it into an even form. I usually try to start with more of a ball-like form than that cone that I had. And when I wedge, I end with a cone typically. And so if I was going to wheel throw this, I would place it on my wheel like that once I've patted it. If I'm going to hand build with it, I can still use a wire cutter to cut through it. And just to check your wedging skills, you can cut this in multiple different places to check and see if you can find any air bubbles in your clay. So you can just kind of pull them apart. And you can see I had one little one in there. So you can kind of pull your clay apart and see how you did. Okay, so there was a little guy there that when I pull apart, it expands. So now I know my clay needs wedged up some more. So I'm gonna smack it together. It's not sticking to the board because the board is not slopping wet and it's not overly sticky. It's not absorbing all that water. And so I wedge some more. And you just go until it's ready. And if you don't know if it's ready, cut it again, check and see how your wedging skills are developing.